Welcome to the Authoritative Coach podcast with me, your host, Chris Marr. In this episode, I'm going to talk you through how to prevent premature endings with your clients. So this is when your client is dictating to you that they're done, that they don't need you anymore, but you know that there's a lot more work to be done. So we're going to look at how to get ahead of this problem before it becomes a problem. I'm going to share with you different things that you could be doing, including lots of coaching questions. I'm going to give you an example of how we've overcome this issue at Impact by using a digital interactive tool. So let's get into it. So far on the podcast, we've talked about beginnings, we've talked about endings, I've shared a whole bunch of questions with you. In this podcast episode, I'm kind of touching more on what's happening in the middle, or perhaps more accurately, what would be called like premature endings, where the client is ending things with you. Now, this is one of the challenges that I used to have as a coach that I have got much, much better at because of putting systems and processes and ultimately a way of making sure that clients understand or are able to reflect that, yeah, we have achieved a lot, we have made progress, but there's still a lot for us to do in the work that we're doing. And premature endings usually come with the client saying to you, I think I'm done here. I think we're done. We've got it from here. Looks like we've got everything we need. We don't need you anymore. And of course, that, for me as a coach, the problem with that is that really, I feel like because I know what this whole journey looks like and what success looks like in terms of the work that we're doing, the client is only seeing one portion of it. And if the client's coming to me and saying, we're done, we've got what we need, I've somehow failed to let them see that this is just like part of the journey, part one or chapter one of the journey. And so it's always sort of haunted me as a coach that if the client's coming to me and dictating the ending, that I've done something wrong here. I've allowed this to happen. And so I really feel strongly about this, that it's really the coach that should determine if we're done. It should be the coach that's also stating that we're making great progress and the work that we're doing is, we're doing great work. We should be stating this. But also, I think it's important to note that we should be able to tell when we're done. We should be, and now we're finished, this is what happens next. Or even worst case scenario, sometimes it's about stating that a client isn't a good fit anymore and being able to determine that as well. And so if things are going wrong and if things are going well, we really want it to be the coach, me, that's coming to the client to state these things rather than the client coming to me. So in all cases that I've covered so far, if the client's coming to me, I feel like I have missed the boat. I missed my opportunity as a coach to come in and say the thing. And so I think it's the coach that needs to be in a position to determine, in this case, if we're done or not the client. After all, it's the coach that has done this work many times, right? So if you're in the client services and a marketing agency, perhaps there's probably most of the people that are watching this, is that, we should be many, many steps ahead of the client. It's us that have done this dozens and dozens of times. We know what this journey looks like. And so I think it's up to us to help the client see what's next and to make sure that next steps are clear and that somehow we build it into our process. So I'll go into this and give you some examples of what this looks like, and obviously share some coaching questions with you as well. And so where do we go with this? We need to get ahead of this problem before it becomes a problem. And I think this comes back very much to beginnings and setting the client up for success so they know that this is part of the process, that we're going to vanguard this, get ahead of the problem by doing something very specific that allows us to make sure that the client never feels like they're done. It doesn't feel like they're done yet. Okay, so let me give you an example of this that goes back and predates the process that we have at the moment. I want to give you a sort of, I'm going to say an analog version of this. In other words, a sort of coaching example, something that any coach could do without any tools that would help facilitate a discussion like this. So, for example, this is what I used to do with my clients, is that I would integrate into the process and say, like, okay, we're going to start off doing this work over the next 3 months. This is what our priorities look like. This is what the work we're going to do. We know what progress looks like. We'd be able to tell if we're on track or off track. These things are really important. Everybody knows why we're doing, what we're doing, what on track and off track looks like. Really critical that that's true. And when we get to the end of the 3 months, we're going to get together and we're going to talk about the work that we've done, what we feel went well, what we feel didn't go so well, and we're going to plan out our next 90 days together. And so the client has this sense that there's a sort of process, a cycle of work. We plan, we do, we review, we improve, we go around this cycle. And so the questions that come to mind here for me that I used to use, I still use some of these questions now, but more when it was just a coaching conversation and a pad of paper in front of us. It was something like, looking ahead over the next 3 months, what do you feel are your top 3 digital sales and marketing challenges going forward? And of course, we'd have a discussion. We would land on those 3. Maybe there'd be more than that. There might be 4 or 5 key things. And then for each of those key challenges, we would start to develop them into priorities and really test them, verify that this is the work that's really important. And so coming back to something I've shared on the podcast before, we would want to understand clearly what problem we're solving. So what the issue is, what kind of impact will it have if we solve this problem? Like, what does success look like? And how important is it? Is it important based on all the work that we've got to do? Does it feel like, how does it stack up in terms of importance around all the work that we want to do? And so we're starting to prioritize these challenges and the work that we want to do. And then we can start to rate them, right? Get them to sort of okay, so let's look at this particular problem we're trying to solve here, the work that we want to do. In terms of performance on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you score our performance in this category right now? Okay, it's a 6. Are we okay with this? No, we're not. So where do we need to be over the next 3 months? We want to get to an 8. What does that look like? How do we get there? Who's going to do it? What does success look like? Let's paint a picture. And let's assume we do everything right. Is 3 months a reasonable amount of time to get there? Is it going to take us longer? What could cause us to fail? What's important in terms of this work, in terms of what we want to achieve? What's not so important? And then being able to make sure we've got somebody that's responsible for that work. So what we end up with is something very specific, that's time-bound, that's got ownership around it. And we've got something clear that helps us over the next 3 months to know what on track, off track looks like. And obviously the key part to this whole thing, the reason I'm sharing this with you, is that this is a conversation that any coach, any agency could and should be having a variation or of this type of conversation with your clients. The alternative is that they go through this project with you, they get to the end of the thing, and it's like, all right, that's us done. See you later. And there's no real clear, going back to the episode 7, if there is really the end, then you've got to think about what does a good ending look like. In this case, though, what I'm really challenging us to think of is that what we used to think as the ending, is that really just the middle? Okay. And so what's next for our clients? How can we transition them into the next phase of this work in a very coaching way? I guess the other alternative here that agencies, I've seen this not just in agencies, but in other professional services as well, as they sort of see it more as an upselling factor. We need to, once the client's done this, we need to sell them on this. And this is the way that a coach would do that, is we would get them to work through their challenges, and then we would say, and this is how we're going to support you. This is what support looks like from us. This is what we're going to do with you as coaches. We would work through it with them and get them to really teach them almost in a way to come up with their own priorities around their own challenges that they want to overcome over the next 3 months. And so it's kind of like if it was on a spectrum, I guess you would have upselling, cross-selling, and then moving across the spectrum to sort of transitioning through to teaching them self-discovery around challenges, how we're going to solve those problems, into a coaching relationship over the next 3 months. So I think those are alternative ways to approach this. This works very much, and if you're a coach or if you're in an agency, this is perhaps the best way, this approach, to help your clients see what they want to work on, what they see as their challenges, and then be able to bring your agency or your skills and expertise into the mix to help your client overcome those over the next few months. And so at any time, though, I think it's important that everybody that's working in the project with the client from the very beginning knows what on track and off track looks like, know what work we're doing, why we're doing it, who's responsible for it. And trying to keep that alignment across the client is going to be very helpful when it comes to the end of the project and you want to reflect, what have we done well? And then we want to plan out what next steps look like. Now, so that is like the analog version. So I want to quickly, I'll put a link to this into the show notes for you as well, so you can see how we've transitioned into using digital tools to help us with this impact. So this goes back about 3 years or so. We knew we had a problem when clients felt quite confident about coming to their trainer or their coach and saying, we don't need you anymore. We've got everything we need. And we're like, you're only 3 months into like really what is 12 to 18 months worth of work. We're not making it clear ahead of time that there's a lot of work for us to do to be truly successful at our highest potential with the work that we're going to do. And so what we did was we took the scorecard methodology, very much inspired by the Rockefeller habits, and we've designed multiple scorecards now. The one in the show notes is really our main They Ask You Answer scorecard. And what we've done is we've integrated into this discussion that I've just shared with you is that prior to like a 90-day transition or a 90-day planning period or planning session is what we call it, we get our clients to complete the scorecard individually on their own so they can see, well, where are we? But how would I score myself on this category of 10? And then they come into the planning session having a sense of, well, we've made progress in each of these categories, but we're still only a 6 out of 10. So what's going to take for us to get to like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 over the next 3 to 6 months? And we can start to design our work around this somewhat. The scorecard is somewhat like a straight ruler that we're trying to align all our clients with so that they get a sense of like, this is what success looks like. This is what good looks like. And we are a 60 out of 100 on that right now. How do we design our work around that to move the needle over the next 3 months? And so they very much get a sense of progress, which is important. Are we making progress? Yes. But what does next steps look like? What does the work look like over the next 3 months? So the whole purpose is to make sure that the client achieves success at their highest potential. But the missing gaps are that, on reflection, having shared this with you, is making sure that we set this up from the beginning. They get a sense that this is what the process looks like. And the last thing we want as coaches or as agencies is our clients telling us when they're done. We should be telling you that you're done, or if you're not done. And I'm using that, telling you, guiding you, helping you see that you're not done yet, right? It shouldn't be a surprise at the end of the 3 months that there's more for us to do. And so thinking about this, what questions do you have? What are you hearing here? You're like, actually, we've got a massive opportunity here with our clients. Our clients are, churning at 3 months, 6 months. There's absolutely scope for us to do more work with our clients, but maybe we're seeing it as like we're trying too hard to upsell them when really what it should be is about the journey with us and our relationship with our clients over a long period of time. How do we build that into some type of process? What's next for them? How do we make it from the beginning, them see that there's a longer journey with us that goes beyond just 3 months? How do we build that into the work that we do so that it's in scope? So for example, even, very simply, if you thought to yourself, you know what, we don't have a transition type meeting or session at the end of the work that we do. It's not in our scope. It's not in our agreements. Our clients don't expect it. How from this point forward with your next client could you say, and at the end of this work, we have a 90-minute session where we review the work that we're going to, and then you know that you're going to have some type of coaching conversation with them, just like what I've shared here with you today. It helps them see that there's value in still working with you over the next 3 months. So I give this to you to say, let's look at where our clients are dropping off, how they're dropping off, who's dictating that they're dropping off. And if you were to do something like this with your clients, something similar like this, would they stay with you for longer? Would you be able to do better work? Would you be able to provide more value? Would your clients be able to get better results as part of this whole change in the way that we work with our clients? So over to you now. As always, check out the show notes for any links to resources, especially the interactive scorecard if you want to see how we do it. YouTube, if you're coming into the community, to ask questions in the comments, in the threads about how you could be doing this. If you want to ask me anything else around this particular topic. And of course, lastly, hugely interested if you make a change here and it's successful and you try something and it works. I'd love to know what that looks like for you and talk that through with you. So share your experiences, good and bad, and any questions that you might have about this. And let's work together to improve the conversations that we're having with our clients, to improve the results that we're getting with our clients, to improve the relationships that we have with our clients. I'll see you next week.